Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Coach's Corner University podcast. We are coming live from the world's smallest podcast studio, and I'm joined by my beautiful wife, Olivia Oneid, and we're going to do a bit of a Q&A today. Liv, what's up?
Oh, nothing.
Well, welcome back to the podcast. Last time you were on was with Greg and Vanessa, and we did a Q&A.
Yep.
We got a lot of really good questions, a few questions about our relationship, which I was kind of expecting, and some more broad coaching questions, which I'm excited to dive into. So, do you want to start with the relationship stuff, or do you want to start with the coaching stuff?
Let's start with the relationship stuff.
Okay, cool. So, it's always interesting to see what people want to learn about us, considering we're both coaches, we both work together, train together a lot of the time, spend a lot of time together.
Spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week together.
And we don't get bored of each other. So, the first question is, who is the better cook?
Me.
Yes. Yeah, Liv is definitely the better cook. I am a cook of convenience and I cook things as quickly as possible. Bland, it doesn't matter. Whereas you have all of your recipes.
Yeah, you're the typical oh, I'm gonna cook something tonight. Stir fry. Stir fry is like the only thing that you know how to make that's not.
Steak. I can make a steak. Even then,
No,
you're a better cook.
no, you burn the steak all the time. He's lost his rights to the barbecue.
Yes.
So he's not allowed to barbecue anymore. So I do all the barbecuing as well.
I can make rice in a rice cooker. I can make instant pot pulled chicken, instant pot pulled beef.
Can we just stop there for a second? You know how to press buttons. You don't know how to cook.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Who's more organized?
You.
I would say in work and business and stuff like that, I'm definitely more organized, but in life, I am the most unorganized. And you definitely, especially
Yes.
when it comes to booking flights
Yes.
and hotels and car rentals and stuff like that.
That's another thing that you have lost your privilege on, booking flights.
Yeah, I have a tendency to book flights into one airport and out of another one, getting the times wrong, the terminals wrong.
The airport's wrong.
Yeah, the airport's wrong.
Has led to a lot of frantic
But we haven't missed a flight yet.
by the thin of my, what's the saying?
Skin in my teeth.
Skin of my teeth.
How do you split cooking responsibilities?
We have a pretty good rhythm going
Yeah.
of just if we're running low on something and you notice it or you're getting to the bottom of the Tupperware container, you just throw on the next batch of food.
Yeah, I feel like we go through seasons where like sometimes like for a few weeks at a time you'll do more cooking, then for a few weeks at a time I'll do more cooking. But
Mhm.
we try to make sure that if something is being finished, it's cooked more of, or at least defrosting and ready to be cooked. One of the things that I know at first was a bit different was Liv wasn't used to cooking as much food at one time as I was because she didn't necessarily realize the portion sizes that I'd be eating. So that was a bit of an adjustment. She'd take out like a pound of beef and it would be gone the next day. And she'd be like, "What the hell? I just cooked the beef." I'm like, "Yeah, that was 2 meals for me." But the other thing too is like, Liv is a better cook, but 99% of the food we eat is very much the same. Like we have 3 or 4 protein sources ready to go. Like right now, I think we have pulled chicken, ground turkey, ground beef,
Yeah.
and they're all super easy to make. We have rice, potato, and
A whole whack of different veggies.
yeah, tons of different vegetables and quinoa. So we just make sure we have Tupperwares of everything ready to go. And if something runs out, whoever has the time to cook it at that point just gets cooked. And we try to do our best not to leave the other person without any food.
Yeah. Doesn't always
I'm
work
not the
out.
best at that, but I'm working on it.
But the easiest point of that is that we eat the same types of food
Yeah.
and we rotate between the same things. So it's just a matter of making sure that those couple protein sources are cooked, couple carb and couple veggies.
Yeah, exactly. We tend to cook like probably 3 times a week and make sure that we have all of our proteins cooked, all of our vegetables cooked, all of our carbs cooked, so that our meal prep is just a matter of putting the portions into a bowl and putting it in the microwave. Try to keep things as easy as possible when life gets busy. Trying to think. Actually, I had a question. It wasn't actually asked, but I think it's worth discussing because we are heading into a season where you're going to be competing. So something that I've had people ask me outside of the podcast, and I thought would be great to discuss is during times where your competition is going to demand a lot more of your bandwidth, a lot more of your energy, how do we manage our work together, our time together as a couple?
Well, in terms of work, nothing really changes between that. I still have to make it a priority to make sure that I'm sticking to my own timelines with work, to
Mhm.
make sure that I'm finishing at a decent time so that we get to spend time together in the evening. Um, but
I work on that too, though.
yeah,
Yeah, that's something we both have to work on.
but in terms of prioritizing time, we both have a pretty good hard stop time
Yeah,
of like 8 p.m. And then that's our time to like sit down, have our last meal together, go for a walk, and then either like read together or watch
watch
TV.
TV. The one thing that I definitely come back to is communication. One thing that Liv and I do very well, and we continue to get better at as we go, as our relationship grows, is communication. Um, Something that I always come back to is I never want to operate our relationship on the basis of assumptions. So if ever I need something, I make sure that I let her know. I also create space for her to let me know what she needs. And we have to both be on the same page all the time because especially going through a prep, you're 10 weeks out now,
11 and
11,
13.
11 and 13. So in about 3 weeks, energy is going to start to dip, patience is going to start to be thin. And I'm well aware of that. But I still have needs, Liv still has needs. So we need to communicate our needs to one another, communicate whether those needs can be met or not, and then come to a mutual understanding of what can be done at that point to make sure that we're both, happy and fulfilled in our relationship and understanding that it's also we're married. We're in this for the long haul, and this is one season of our life. Um, and it's going to be over.
I think I do a pretty good job though of like,
Yes.
I know when I wake up, I'm like, I'm feeling really rough today. Just letting you know, my patience is very thin.
Yep.
Basically, don't talk to me.
Yep.
And we've had a lot of silent walks.
Yep.
Or I say like, you can come for the walk if you want, but I'm wearing my headphones because I need like a podcast right now. I don't
Yep.
want to talk to anyone.
Well, we used to do those
So
podcast walks.
yeah,
Yeah, we'd each put our headphones on and just go for a walk together. But I think I think it's important to just be able to share space with your partner.
yeah. And create boundaries for myself when I need them.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. If anyone has ever been through a prep, like I only know because I did one a year and a half ago, and prior to that, I was like, oh, she's got no energy. And then going through it myself, I was like, oh, she's got no energy.
Yeah.
Because it's not a good place to be. And luckily, it's like I said, it's a short period. So TLDR, communicate, 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 talk about everything. And if you're not happy, well, just know that you probably shouldn't have let it get that far. One of the things that I think is a main driver of the happiness in our relationship is anything that goes unsaid is a decision in that moment to resent the person later. So if you're not saying something, you're agreeing that you're going to resent your partner later. And I never want to resent my wife. So, all right, training stuff,
Yeah.
nutrition stuff. There's
Um,
actually a lot of really good questions.
let's start with do the training first.
Training first, okay. So, how do you avoid overtraining? I laughed at this question personally.
Yeah. Do you want me to start? I think we both kind of giggled because we've talked about this before.
Yeah, so I'll start. I will say that the chances that someone is able to volitionally overtrain, meaning train hard enough to actually overtrain, slim to none. Slim to none. Any issues with overtraining that I've seen in myself, with my clients, it's always because of accumulation of lifestyle stress on top of the training load. So, the number one advice I have for somebody who's worried about overtraining is make sure the lifestyle variables, your sleep, your nutrition, your stress management are all taken care of. And if you're eating enough calories, you can train really, really hard and do a lot of it and still make progress.
Yeah. And so yeah, just tracking those like biofeedback metrics to
Mhm.
see if there's any changes in your sleep quality and your general like mood and energy levels throughout the day. And if you notice maybe 2 or 3 days in a row where it's getting a little bit worse, then that may be your sign to pull back, maybe just have a deload week. But in terms of overtraining or even just like managing muscle soreness,
Yeah.
maybe that is something that they were
Yeah,
kind of
I think it's
insinuating.
important to qualify what overtraining actually is. So if we're talking about like clinical overtraining, you're going to have decreased sleep quality, you're going to have decreased libido, decreased appetite, you're going to have joint pain, you're going to have increased inflammation, you're likely going to have some digestive issues. All of these things are contributors to overtraining syndrome. If you're talking about just not overtraining your recovery, i.e., like having some sort of regression in your performance, that's a bit of a different question. Uh, and then it comes back to the answers that we've provided. If you're feeling like you're clinically overtrained, well, you're going to need more than just a deload week.
I mean, if you, yeah, so if you're not able to progress your training session to session, week to week, that will come down to total volume that you're doing more so.
Yeah, I think we both agree in terms of philosophy that you standardize intensity. So
Yeah.
you have a maximal intensity on every set, meaning that you're taking all of your sets to or close to failure. If that's the case, then all you have to do is turn up or down the volume based on how you're recovering. So more working sets or less working sets and see how your progress trends. And if your progress is trending in the right direction, keep going. If it's not, try turning the volume down a little bit. One thing that I found, and it's been pointed out to me against what I wish was true, is as I'm getting older, I can't tolerate as much volume. So I can't, even though I can train really, really hard, I just can't do as much. Otherwise, I will start to regress. So that's an adjustment that I've had to make over time. And keep in mind that I'm someone who sleeps well ish, eats very well, monitors my stress levels day to day, and takes care of myself. So if you are not doing those things, your ability to tolerate volume is probably even lower. What are you training so hard for?
Well, act like for right now, training so hard for a bodybuilding show,
Right.
but 90% of the time and like throughout the year, I'm just training hard to be the best version of myself.
Yeah,
I enjoy it. I love training hard. It makes me happy, it makes me feel good, and I like the physical changes that are a result of it.
I love it. I'm training so hard to keep up with her.
Yeah,
Uh,
because you're getting old.
yeah, and I'm getting old and I want to prevent that. No, I've been training now for almost 20 years, and it's been the number one constant in my life longer than anything else. It's not something I'm ready to give up and I ever will give up. So for me, I'm training to keeping the best version of myself. Like Liv said, that's definitely the best way to put it. I talk about raising the bar all the time, and raising the bar for me, it's a pun, right? Like I lift weights, but I'm also raising the bar for myself as a person. I'm raising the bar for myself as a husband. I'm raising the bar for myself as a business owner. And that's something that we resonate together on. And I mean, we bond over training. So suffer together, stay together, right?
Yep.
How do you structure warm-up sets?
Well, so this is for like a hypertrophy
Yeah,
kind
let's
of
put it in the context of hypertrophy.
hypertrophy rep range. Um, what I would do is, well, I start with a lighter weight. All of my warm-up sets are going to be anywhere from like 3 to 7 reps max, usually only like 3 to 5.
Do you pick prime numbers only?
Um,
Like 3, 5, 7, 11.
yeah, for some reason, yeah. I never like when warming up, I'll never do like 6 or 4. I just noticed that now.
Okay.
That's really weird. Um, so I'll start off with a really light weight, get warmed up, and then just slowly increment weight until I get to a weight that I know I'm going to be able to hit in within the rep range set to failure.
Yeah. I think the big take home points, especially if we're talking about a hypertrophy context, is your warm up sets should get you acclimated to the load, but should not fatigue you.
Yeah.
So you want to keep them further than five in terms of 5 reps from failure, I typically will start, let's say I'm working up to 10 plates on a leg press. If I did 1 plate, 2 plate, 3 plate, 4 plate, 5 plate, 6 plate, I'm going to get exhausted. It's going to be way too much work. It's going to take way too much time. So I might start my warm-ups at 4 plates and do 2 plate per side jumps. I might do 4 plates for 15, 6 plates for 8, 7 plate or 8 plates for like 3, and then I'll get right to 10 plates.
Yeah. So it's just like depending on the load, you're
Yeah.
probably only going to get maybe like 3 or 4.
3 to 4 warm-up sets. The other thing I will say is as my sessions progress, so say I'm doing a back day and I'm on my third back movement, I may not take a warm-up set. I like if I know what I did the previous week for however many reps, I may just jump to that working weight because I'm already warm. I already have a great pump.
Or
And
do one.
yeah, or do one really light set just to feel out the groove and make sure the machine is set up properly. And then I'll just go. Because at that point, you don't need a warm up set. You're already warm. You just need to kind of feel the groove of the machine, and then you can go ahead. The key with warm ups is you do not want them to fatigue you. You do not want the fatigue accumulation from these warm up sets to limit your output on that top set.
You're just priming yourself for those top sets. You're not trying to add a bunch of junk volume to your day.
Exactly. As much as people will say that, weight doesn't matter, well, weight is mechanical tension. So if you can lift with great technique and hit the same amount of reps, but lift more weight in an unfatigued state than a fatigued state, the stimulus of that set will be greater in terms of hypertrophy. So you want to have a perfect balance between technique, load, and fatigue accumulation across the whole workout. All right, time to jump into the nutrition stuff. And honestly, there's a pretty good question here. How do I stop stress eating? I didn't ask this question, just for reference. I don't stress eat.
Well, stress is an emotional response.
100%.
So it's the same question that I would ask for any emotional eating, I don't want to say habit, but occurrence or thing that you're dealing with.
It's a habit for sure.
Yeah. Is what do I really need right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because the food that you're turning to is a coping mechanism for whatever the root cause is.
Totally.
So in this case with stress, how do I manage my stress?
Mm-hmm.
How do I deal with these stressors in my life? And what do I actually need right now to cope with this rather than like a momentary thing, food that may help me feel better right now, but long term, the stress is going to be there and it's not going to fix the issue.
Yeah, the cool part about this question, the way it was asked, how do I stop stress eating? The operative word here is stop. So one thing that I try to teach my clients, and to be honest, like I didn't ask the question, but I used to seek food as a soothing, thing for me for a really long time. And when I learned to stop in that moment, when I'm having those feelings, to stop and to think about what it was in that moment that I was actually seeking, like Liv mentioned, like it's a habit to seek that soothing
That
of
comfort.
food. Yeah, it's called comfort food for a reason, right? So having other mechanisms to deal with your stress, to feel those feelings, because what you're doing with the food is you're trying to mask those negative emotions. And I don't know, like I could probably go on a rant about this, but I don't know where we started thinking that feeling sad, feeling anxious, feeling mad, that these were things that should be avoided at all costs. These are normal human emotions. And without being sad, you can't be happy. Without being anxious, you can't be excited, right? So all of these emotions are things that we should be feeling. And if we listen to those emotions in the moment, they're going to teach us something about ourselves. And when we're using food to mask those emotions, we're really depriving ourselves of the human condition. The other thing I will say is that nothing you eat while you're stressed is going to taste as good as it would if you were happy. It's never going to taste as good as you want it to. It's never going to last as long as you want it to, regardless of how many bottomless bags of, delicious popcorn. What was the popcorn that we got this weekend? Caramel. Oh, apple? No,
No,
butter something.
it was like candied nuts and
Yeah.
pecan cashew.
Pecan cashew candied popcorn. But anyway, we were eating it in a mindset where we were really enjoying the moment and it tasted delicious. Had we been
Mhm.
stressed and seeking it for soothing, we would have housed it super fast. We wouldn't have enjoyed it at all. And that's something I always return to as well. It's like if I really want to enjoy these quote unquote comfort foods, I'm going to want to eat them in a state when I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
Because I really want to enjoy them.
Yeah. Well, because then after you finish it too, that's when the guilt and the shame associated with it will
Mm,
start to set in too, and then that makes you more stressed
yeah.
because then you feel like you just fucked up again.
And then you end up like fat bastard.
Yeah. I eat because I'm unhappy, and I'm unhappy because I eat.
So, I mean, stress eating is one of those things. Like I do actually like that you were gonna say habit, but you went away from it. But I do like using the word habit because it is a
Yeah,
habit.
it is.
Seeking the comfort of food is a habit. And something that, my friend Jeb Stewart Johnson, if you don't follow him, you probably should. He talks about emotional eating a lot. But
My water bottle's making noise.
Jeb speaks about how coping strategies like an emotional relationship or emotional eating behaviors actually served you at one point, right? Maybe there was a stressful point in your life where you developed this habit and that habit saved you from some sort of trauma in your life or allowed you the time to move past something. But now it doesn't serve you because while you do get the soothing and the comfort, you also get the increased caloric intake, the fat accumulation, blood sugar dysregulation, all the bad stuff, right? So it did serve you at one point. Now it no longer serves you. So let's break that habit, stop it, listen to it, see what you actually need, and then be able to move forward.
Yeah. But it absolutely does become a habit. I've noticed like myself, like through my own nutrition, like healing kind of journey, if you
Mhm.
want to call it, instances where once I began to heal that relationship with food, there were occasions where I would stop and think like, wow, this is normally a time where I would binge or I would grab food.
Yeah, you've said that
And
a few times to
and
me.
noticing like it was just a habit for me in certain situations.
Yeah. It's got to be validating too,
Yeah.
right? Though, like you
Yeah.
have those moments.
And just realizing like I am not that person anymore.
Love that. Okay. We talked about stress eating. Okay. We got two questions about coaching. The first one is, what are the most important attributes of a coach? That's a
Commu-
tough one.
Communication
I would say communication's
is
number one. Yeah.
first and foremost, yeah. Because being able to have open, honest communication between the athlete and the client, like there probably will be no issues, but if there are issues, the athlete will have no problem coming to the coach. The coach will have no problem addressing them with the athlete.
Yeah. I definitely think when you think about coaching, a lot of people ignore the fact that coaching is a relationship. And your work with a client is you building a relationship with that client. So if you're looking for a coach, you want to be looking for someone who you see as someone who you can foster a really solid and firm relationship with and who can nurture you towards whatever goals you need to achieve. If you're trying to push towards a goal, understand that there will be hardships, understand that there will be challenges, and you want someone in your corner who is ready and equipped to handle those challenges with you side by side and is not going to trigger you in a way where it'll set you back or maybe their motivation styles don't jive with you. Like these are really important things to it's when you're interviewing a coach, ask like, hey, if I was struggling, how would you deal with it? Or, if I had a big success, how would you celebrate that with me? These are questions that I actually ask my clients how they want me to help them. I have a questionnaire that I send out to them because I want to make sure that I'm doing what I can to foster that relationship. And I think that's important. I would say on the more X's and O's side, while you probably will not run into issues, you want to pick a coach who you're confident in that if issues do come up, they can solve them. So they have the requisite skills to troubleshoot. That was a big thing when, I know you were looking into Austin. It's like,
Mhm.
I'll probably be fine. But if I'm not,
Yeah.
I know he can fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about on the personal side? Like I think now that coaches are putting more of their personal lives on social media, I think it's really important to pick a coach that your values align with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I mean, we see it all the time. Like there's coaches who are very negative on social media.
Hmm.
They put out a lot of vitriol and things like that. And if I was a client, I definitely wouldn't want to associate with somebody who had a negative personality
Yeah,
or someone who just espoused values that I didn't agree with.
yeah.
I wish I could give you top 5 things that you would want to look for in a coach. But other than communication, relationship building, and shared values, I think most coaches have the tools to get you to where you want to go. Obviously,
I,
education, like,
I think if they have those attributes, they'll be able to accommodate you for what you need,
yeah.
accommodate your lifestyle and needs and preferences.
I also think it goes without saying that, like, you should pick a coach who's educated. You should pick a coach who has experience. You should pick a coach who has a proven track record of results with clients and or with themselves.
Mhm.
And you should pick a coach that has a great reputation in the industry. If you have a coach and you're wondering about, whether you're having questions about the quality of your coach, I would implore you to reach out to people who have worked with that coach in the past and ask them about their experiences. That's a very good
Yeah.
indicator.
I've had a lot of clients who have essentially like interviewed me as a coach and asked for
References.
references. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I think it's great. I think honestly, when a client interviews me, I automatically think that's probably a client I want to work with
Mhm.
because they're doing their due diligence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Okay. This one was asked, and I honestly thought it was phenomenal. I think people are going to get a lot of value. How do I know my coach is taking it slow for my own benefit and not just milking my time with them for more money? I thought that was so insightful for a few reasons. The first being, what did this coach say or do to give the impression to this client that they were out for money? Like that, it's like what would be the impetus for this question to be asked was kind of on my mind. But then understanding that the slower the better. Yeah.
Yeah. My initial response is trust in your coach and communication.
Yeah.
So if you're questioning your rate of progress, if you're questioning how fast you should be seeing results, what you should be seeing in your plan, like what are the timelines that we're trying to achieve? At what rate are we trying to achieve these? And being able to have your coach explain in detail, this is what we're doing, this is the rate that we want to see, these are the metrics that we're tracking. And a good coach who's laid out a plan should be able to answer those questions.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, One of the things that we try to do is say there's a weight loss goal and we have a timeline. We'll lay out the rate of loss according to that goal.
Mhm.
And then we can track progress and be like, hey, are we on track for progress? Why or why not? We have metrics to go back to. And what doesn't get measured can't be managed. So that's a big piece here. Is the more metrics we have, the more information we can base our decision making off of. The other piece I will say is the slower your rate of progression in most cases, the more sustainable it'll be. So I would ask the client back, what are your expectations of progress and are they realistic? Further to that, are you checking all the boxes? Sometimes we'll get in a situation where a client will have expectations about the rate at which they should be making progress, come to realize that the client isn't getting their steps, isn't tracking their macros, or at least isn't doing these things on a consistent enough basis to make progress. And the setbacks that they're having are enough to derail their progress almost entirely. And you could come back and say, well, the client didn't do their job. I laid out the plan, the client didn't do their job.
Well,
It's the
the
coach's fault. Yeah,
coach's job to check in on them and hold them accountable.
100%. 100%. As a coach, in my opinion, it's always your fault. If your client can't follow the plan, it's always your fault. You either didn't put a plan together that was to their level of preparedness or skill, or you didn't provide them the tools to be able to do it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I but trust for sure. So
Yes.
if you trust your coach, then you should trust that they're setting you up for success. The beginning of that question, though, he or she, I don't know, it was a anonymous question, mentioned that their coach is a IFBB pro coach. Oh no, they said they were
Retired IFBB pro.
and they're a lifestyle client. Never
Yeah.
mind. I thought for a second that they were like an athlete, like a competitive
Mm,
athlete, and I was gonna say they may just be taking it very slow so that they can keep you close to competition shape year
sure.
round to make that prep a little bit easier.
But that brings into light the fact that you need to have that conversation with your coach about
Yeah,
goals and about why you're doing what you're doing.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is the last question. Is it possible to be a natural IFBB pro? And the question was asked in the context of wellness. I will caveat that and say in the context of professional bodybuilding at the IFBB level.
Yeah. So at the IFBB level, no. I mean, yeah, potentially, yeah.
So I will say that I know of a few pro open bodybuilders who turned pro natural. Quinton Aria, Quinton Beastwood on Instagram, Ronnie Coleman turned pro as a natural, Kai Green turned pro as a natural, and there was one other person. But these guys are the complete outliers. I also do know, I don't know them by name, but I have heard that there are some natural bikini competitors.
Yeah, probably. I was thinking in the terms of like being a natural pro,
Yeah,
like
there
in the
are
natural division.
yeah, there are natural federations in which you can turn pro for sure.
But to be part of the IFBB Pro League, you have to compete in the IFBB, so NPC, CPA.
Yeah, yeah. So could you? Yes. The chances of that being possible, very, very low. But, was it Justin Bieber? Never say never.
Oh my God, I don't even know that song. I'm surprised you didn't. I'm not a Bieber fan.
Surprise. Bieber fever. Um,
But to caveat that, because maybe
yeah.
this person doesn't know that there are natural shows that you can compete in,
Mhm.
still under the CPA or the NPC, which you can turn pro in and compete in natural pro shows. You just won't be in the IFBB league.
Yes. In general, if you are seeing someone on an IFBB pro stage, they are competing untested. Well, that was fun.
Yeah,
I feel like we rolled through those pretty quickly.
yeah.
I personally would love to do more of these Q&As with Liv if she'll be on more often. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
To buy me gifts.
All right, RIP my bank account. Thank you everyone for joining us. If there are questions you would like to see answered, please comment down below in the on the YouTubes, or you can DM me on the YouTubes, or you can DM me on Instagram. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you did like the podcast, please share it because it gets into more people's inbox and then it makes them watch our podcast. It'd be a lot cooler if more people than just my mom watched it, you know?
My mom watches.
Your mom watches?
Probably not.
Thanks, Fran. Bye, everybody.